Eisha Jain is an immigration law professor at the UNC School of Law. 130 arrests in Charlotte over the weekend. Professor Jain, what concerns do you have about what's unfolding there?
I have a number of concerns regarding the scale and scope of these actions, the potential for people getting hurt, the potential for the unnecessary use of force, and also the potential for error, so citizens and non-citizens alike being swept up.
According to the top Border Patrol official, Gregory Bovino, some of these people have been arrested before for things like DUI, aggravated assault, shoplifting. Help us understand, what's the legal process for asylum seekers or people who have entered the country illegally who have been charged with a crime? Can they be kicked out of the country or detained without due process?
Sure. So let me just take a step back and say it's always been the case that the people who are here without lawful status, and even people who are here legally, so someone who has followed the process and who's applied for asylum and is waiting for that application to be determined, it's always been the case that these folks could be removed after a certain process. And it's always been the case, or not always, but for at least over a decade, that anytime anyone's been arrested for anything, their immigration information's been shared with immigration enforcement officials. So I don't think this is actually about the who can be removed or who can't be removed. I think the real question these enforcement actions are raising is how can the government go about doing this? So when and whether the government can stop somebody and detain them, and for no reason other than to check their immigration status. I think that's what this is really about, and it has the potential to sweep up citizens as well who, don't have their paperwork on them and who might not be able to easily prove where they're from.
Yeah, we have seen people who are citizens who are carrying around their passport because they're so concerned that they're going to be, what they say is like unlawfully approached and questioned and potentially detained. So when we talk about just the way in which this is all going about, you're saying that this is one of your main concerns here. What is it that you are seeing that really could be called into question as being illegal?
Yeah, so I mean, just as a general matter, one important set of rights that everyone who's in the United States has is, the right to be left alone. Generally, unless the police have probable cause that we've done something wrong, they're not entitled to arrest a person unless they have reasonable suspicion that criminal activity is afoot. They're not entitled to stop someone, right? So those are rights that are pretty important in terms of helping people feel safe and to engage in their communities and the way that they want to. So I think that's a real chilling effect, right? When people are not certain about what might happen if they're going about and going to the grocery store or going to a church, like what might be the consequences if they're stopped and asked to show their papers.
Just to be clear, so some of the cases, for example, that Bovino has brought up is one of them is a man who has a prior history of DUI. So people who have a criminal history in front of them, they are, I should say, people who have a criminal history, they are also given those same rights that you have described, yeah?
Well, the question is, how does somebody know at the first moment that they're being stopped whether or not what their immigration status is, or whether or not they have a criminal history? So certainly, I think that the government's within its legal rights to say that if you're not here lawfully, and we can also establish that you're someone who we want to prioritize for removal. I think that's been well within the government's scope of their legal authority for some time. I don't think that's really in dispute. Yeah. I think the question is, how are they going about determining who they're going to stop?
We've seen lots of videos of the raids and arrests taking place. One video was taken by a woman who was sitting in a car. She was recording agents that had surrounded a minivan. They were taking someone inside that minivan into custody. The agents then approached the woman who was taking the video. Are people allowed to record this? Is there any legal recourse for recording?
So I think it's context specific. I think certainly, people are being advised to record what's happening, and in some cases, there's certainly been cases where people have, I think, arguments that it's a First Amendment right to record. I think the question would be, well, how and when are you doing it? Is there any claim that you're somehow intruding or interfering with government officials who are doing their job? But certainly, if someone's not, interfering with anybody else, I think that. I think that people should generally be well within their rights to record.
Yeah, let's staying on the point of what people's rights are. Business owners, customers who are inside those businesses, what rights do they have if federal agents approach them?
Yeah, so this can actually be a really confusing question for people because in some cases, what the government is doing, what federal agents might be doing, is just asking, and the business owner might well be free to say, no, no thanks. I prefer that you not come in. You should just go on your way. In other cases, they might be saying we have the legal authority to enter whether or not you want us to come in or not. So I think that's the primary question that needs to be answered. And one way business owners can know is to ask that question. Is this a consent-based search, or what are you asking for here?
Why don't we end with this? Some people are wondering what's to stop this from coming to Raleigh. Could these enforcement operations come to the Triangle area? And if they do, what do people need to know?
I think it's an open question as to where this might go in the future. I think that's possible that places like Raleigh or other places might also see escalated enforcement actions. And I think that my advice would be to just try to know your rights, that the rights that everybody, citizens and non-citizens alike have, to understand what the basis is for a government official who's stopping and detaining anyone. Like, what is their basis for doing that?
I think that's probably a lot of the concern that people have, is they don't necessarily know what their rights are in this current environment. And then in addition to that, they don't even know really which authority is approaching them and how they're meant to respond. Are they meant to respond differently with one authority or over another? Do you agree?
I think that's certainly a source of confusion, yes. And that's part of a lot of uncertainty, is that one of the consequences of not having certainty about the scope of one's rights is that people might well be chilled from engaging in a lot of socially valuable activity, like going about work, going to the grocery store, engaging with neighbors, that we want to see people engage in.
Yeah. Eisha Jain, immigration law professor at UNC, really appreciate your insights. Thank you.
Thank you so much.